Who knew that Calgary was the mecca of taco time? I'm guessing that Mike Richards knows that. Let's bring him in from Saga 960. And the more time I spend here in Calgary, Mike, I really question why you ever left. You're the king of this town. I think you could have stayed here to the end of your life. I guess when opportunity knocks, you open the door, but holy smokes, man, what a great town. You must have had the best time here of your life.
Oh, without a doubt. And still, their questions loom. What the hell was I thinking? It was a circumstance not unlike, see that catch with the goalie union? They still have the goalie card.
Yeah.
You see that catch? The weird thing is, and people do ask that all the time. I mean, it's the most common one. Why would you leave? Well, number one, my family wasn't with me at the time, and I had to, it's kind of tough always living on your own. I could have done it, and maybe they liked it that way. The other thing, and this is the weirdest thing of all, if I hadn't have left, and let's say I chose going to the Fan, which was what was supposed to happen in Toronto, the Fan in Toronto, Fan 590, then I would have died of cancer. I wouldn't have made it because I know damn well that I wasn't going to a doctor in Calgary. It wasn't until I met my buddy at TSN, Tony Luciano, Luch, my life filled full of Italians. If Luch didn't push me to go to the doctor that I saw, I wouldn't have got checked. I was stage 3 at that point, didn't know. And so quite honestly, if I stay, I die. And it is just weird to put it that way, but that's the God's honest truth.
Hey, everything happens for a reason, Mike. But I just got to say, they still talk about you every day. So I hope that at least feels good, Mike. It must.
Well, my contact with Calgary is constant. As a matter of fact, people say, "Hey, you're in my hood." No, you're actually in my neighborhood. If you go one street over to 69, which is Discovery Ridge, I still have my house there. I never sold it. In some ways, I never moved. My heart certainly didn't. So if you want to sleep in my bed tonight, go ahead, sleep in my bed. I'm that kind of friend. You can sleep. Yeah. How about that?
I may take you up on that. So I wanted to pass that along. And the fans don't know. Like, I'm sitting here with a Stampeders mug on my show. Mike used to bring me in the mornings for an hour on his morning show to stir up the Stamps Riders thing. And we would duke it out WWE style and then go to a commercial and laugh. I don't know, man. Those were the days.
They were the days. And look, the way that radio works, and I also, maybe I should put it this way. The caveat being sports radio works. They are lost. They've lost their way. They've given the keys to the car essentially for people who don't know what they're driving. And they've murdered it. The people will say that sports radio died. Sports radio didn't die. It was murdered because these people have no idea, no clue on how the format works, who to hire, how to make money at it. I mean, that's the bottom line for these people. I mean, basically most of the companies are soulless. But there's one thing that they do get excited about, and that's about money. That's about checks. And it is possible. I mean, you've proved that you're doing it on your own right now. You have figured a way to do a good show, actually be, you travel, you go on remote, you go on locations, you have an audience that continues to get bigger. Why is that? It's because you know what you're doing. You were given the keys to a car that wasn't built yet. You made it and you drive it. What's disgusting is that you have these massive corporations who are just a bunch of dummies. And they refuse to acknowledge that maybe they need a little help. Would I go back to Calgary? Yeah. If someone picked up the phone and said, would you come back to Calgary? It became my hometown. It is my hometown. It is my hometown. And so to sit there and, pretend somehow that it was a great move for me. Yeah. TSN comes calling. It was a gazillion times the money that I was making in Calgary. So that's obviously, it's like Gretzky leaving Edmonton in some ways. You're going where the cash is. But that's not to say that somehow that my heart, my allegiance, and my mind and soul never left Calgary, because it probably never did and still hasn't. So there are ways to fix in all these parts of the country sports radio. It still is wanted. It's still a very viable format. But until they admit that they don't know what they're doing, the people they put in charge have absolutely no clue. I mean, you go to any city, and I'm not talking about Calgary itself. I'm talking about Toronto. I'm talking about most places. And guess the shocking thing was in Vancouver, They started to get it right. TSN radio in Vancouver started to do a pretty good job, and they killed it. And then they wiped out Winnipeg. Hamilton was a disaster, and because it was just a foolish endeavor with just zero talent and zero money. But sports radio is viable. Sports entertainment is viable. You've proved it. It's just a shame that those in charge who could make money at it are clueless.
What a great opportunity to get that off your chest. And here's my thing is the competition to that, sitting there going, just keep doing what you're doing. And I'm sitting here going, there's all this opportunity out here? It's going so great. I mean, you understand that, right?
Yes.
So I appreciate you getting that off your chest. Now, there's so many roads to go down here. The Olympic men's roster for hockey announced this morning. There's that. Did you have a chance to have a peek at that, Mike? Do you have a take on it?
For about 8 seconds, and then there's a new swimsuit blog that I saw. So that
okay, it's not. Look, it's
I'm not
bound for the Hockey Hall of Fame.
Yeah, no. It's not. It doesn't hold my attention. To me, if we're going down different roads, watching that Kansas City Buffalo game, that's got my. In fact, not only does it have my attention, let me just tell you something. Because people are always talking in this country about the CFL, about what it takes and cities and what's entertaining. When the numbers just came out from our good friend Jersey Jim, who I have on the show often. So the Bengals-Titans game was 30 million. The next biggest game was the 49ers and the Packers. But when you start looking at the size of the market, so you'd assume that the Rams and the Bucks, by the numbers, it's LA, would have the biggest. They had 38 million. The Chiefs and the Bills, small markets, 42.74 million people. And it reminded me, quite honestly, of what the CFL games used to look like. That to me, that wasn't a Western final. The only thing we were missing was someone punting it out of the end zone. Like, if they want to pay the best of 7, let me know, because I'll sign up.
Wasn't that something? All 4 games going down to the last play. But that was a rarity, Mike. As you know, that was the greatest weekend of NFL football of all time, because last weekend, the wild card games, for the most part, a blowout. Like, is this a trend,
yes,
or do you think they just kind of got lucky this past weekend?
Well, I think that just like here in the CFL, that COVID still has reached into the consistency of what happens in football and has really messed with it. I mean, for the first half of the CFL season was almost unwatchable. And you're talking about a guy who's been going to games. Well, my first game was in 1972. I've interviewed almost every coach, player, and general manager in the last 30, 35 years. It's where my heart is. But watching it, I knew that there was, some severe issues. A lot of it had to do with just consistency in the COVID world. It still has affected the NFL because there's no elite team this year. There's no one team that you said, well, it's theirs to lose. That's impossible, because on any given Sunday, and of course that is the phrase, but the team that plays the best on that day is going to win. And then they had a scenario where at least 2 or 3 of those teams showed up. And I mean, they did show up. I mean, people who wrote off the Bengals have not been paying attention. Joe Burrow is a very good I mean, look, they don't have that full team yet. Next year, if they're smart, they'll be hosting a playoff game. But Patrick Mahomes versus Josh Allen, that was destined to be a great one. I think Matthew Stafford, who's waited all those years after starving to death in Detroit, finally got his chance against the great Tom Brady. I mean, there were some great storylines that past weekend that were bound to happen. And Jimmy G does nothing but win. And I'm not a Packers fan. And by the way, for all those people in the Packer world who now want to take the entire offseason and tell us every day what's happening with Aaron Rodgers, whether it's his feet, the length of his hair, what magazines he likes, his favorite ice cream, just shut up. Just shut up. We had enough of it last year. I don't care about you. You know what? I don't care how great you think. Hey, if Aaron Rodgers really thinks he's great, if he really thinks he's good, I'll tell you where you go. The Argos. Yeah, if you're really that good, if you can make that work, then you're worth the money, pal.
But the worst part is the offseason of Willie or won't he come. I'm nauseated thinking about it already. I'm so sick of that. But anyways, Mike, love you, my man. This has been wonderful. Enjoy the games, and let's do it again soon.
Absolutely. Keep doing what you're doing. There's still sort of more, I think, to shake this world up a little bit because people don't like losing money. So there's money out there. There's an audience out there. I get why they love your show because it's why I love coming on. It's nice to talk to someone
Mike.
who gets it and someone who's honest. And you're both those things.
Thanks a lot, Matt. You too. That's two of us. Namaste.
Yeah, what it is.
Mike Richards in Mississauga. Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching the RP Show on YouTube. And don't forget, we're live daily on YouTube from noon to 2 Eastern. If you like what you see, hit subscribe. And if you like the program, check around for other segments of the Rod Pedersen Show here on YouTube.